So perhaps you saw the video we posted the other day about a tier list ranking the top 20 Ken Palm teams. And while Zach Flott and I disagreed on a few of them, there was one that we were all in consensus on, and that was Iowa State being a national championship contender, a team that all three of us predict is going to win the national championship. Now, let's start with why we think that. Obviously, the betting favorites are Auburn, Duke, Tennessee. Those teams that are ranked ahead of Iowa State in the Ken Palm rankings, which, there's quite a few. Um, Ken Palm has Iowa State ranked as the sixth best team behind Houston, Gonzaga, Duke, Tennessee, and Auburn. However, we think that Iowa State is not a head above, but maybe a shoulder above all of those teams. And number one is defense. Although they're ranked 12th on the defensive end, we all know that defense travels, and TJ Otzelberger, when going gets tough, is going to have his teams playing hard defense. They shut down Cam Jones and Marquette. And although they haven't been as good as on the defensive end, kind of a lackluster game against Iowa defensively, they still get stops when it matters. There are guys on that team that are very good individual defenders, and they have very good defensive scheme. But the number one reason that we believe that Iowa State is going to win the national championship is because of the offensive revolution they've underwent, offensive resurgence. Last year, they were number one in defensive rating via Ken Palm and 52nd in offensive rating. And they won the Big 12 and got a 2 seed and made the Sweet 16. This year, although they're a little lower on the defensive end, they're third in the country according to Ken Palm in offensive rating. And that is mainly due to a couple of people. Number one is Keyshawn Gilbert, who, in my opinion, is unquestionably the Big 12 Player of the Year and should get votes for National Player of the Year as well. Gilbert has stepped up every year he's been in college, started at UNLV, and then transferred over to Iowa State, where he started every game last year, put up 13.7 points. He's up that to 16.4 points per game. And you may think he's doing it because he does have a good jump shot. You may think he's doing it, torching from deep. But if anything, his three-point percentage is going to go up. He's only shooting 29% from the three, which is not that good. But the big thing about his game is his shiftiness and his ability to get to the cup. Just from watching him at Hilton, he's so good at beating defenders off the bounce. He's so fast, and he's so crafty at the rim, finishing reverse lays, floaters, and he loves drawing contact. You've seen him get injured a few times this year, once in Maui, and then a second time against Marquette, where he got his whole jersey bloodied and had to come out with a new one. Iowa State, although they haven't played the best strength of schedule, when they have played good competition, such as Auburn, I'll throw Dayton in there, and Marquette, and I'll throw Iowa in there as well. Not the best strength of schedule wise. They're ranked 80th in Ken Palm for net strength of schedule. But I don't think that's really going to matter. The Big 12 is enough of a gauntlet anyways. And some more players have stepped up for this team. It hasn't been just Gilbert. I think one big difference between this year and last year as Iowa State is the resurgence of the big man. Two transfers, Deshaun Jackson and Joshua Jefferson, are both studs, especially Jefferson. Played his butt off today in the Iowa game, almost finishing with a triple-double. Deshaun Jackson is a load down low. That's a duo that you don't want to face, especially they can pass to players cutting toward the bucket. And of course, can't forget about who should be the sixth man of the year in Curtis Jones. Jones is an absolute flamethrower from beyond the arc, and he's also really good at playing defense. Comes in, brings a spark of energy off the bench, and I would say that he's one of their top five players. He was playing a lot down the stretch in the Iowa game. Hit a big three from the logo to kind of seal the deal in that one. Um, Now, to kind of expand upon uh, their strengths, I think it's important to note their weaknesses because, I feel as if some weaknesses aren't fixable in college basketball. You can tell if weakness is fixable, like if the players aren't given enough effort. That may be a fixable one, but normally that's something you can't teach. You can't teach guys to care. Um, but one of the big fixes that Iowa State can make is that two of their players, in my opinion, who were key to their run last year, aren't really playing too well this year. I'll go with the more controversial one first, and that's Milan Momcilovic. Would like to see a little bit more out of him defensively. This is just eye test stuff. Don't have access to a bunch of stats here individually, but I feel as if Momcilovic, not the fastest player, and he's a good system defender, very smart, but feels if individually he's not the best on the perimeter. And shot selection wise, um, he is shooting 50% from the 3 point arc. So can't really knock him for that. Very good catch and shoot shooter. I'm not a big fan of the whole Dirk post fade. I know it's controversial, but it's a tough shot. And there's a reason Dirk's a Hall of Famer because he was so good at it. But the 1 foot leaner, I'm just not sure if that's a type of shot that you want to be taken from the mid range. Kind of a tough two that you might want to avoid. So that's my thoughts on Momcilovic. I believe in him and his ability to play better. But the fact that he was on the bench for Nate Heisey, who played well tonight, but wasn't really that amazing when I went to see him at Marquette. Second one is one that I'm a little disappointed in. This is my guy, Taman Lipsey. Had him as a top 10 player in America. Had him on a preseason All American team I did. And he hasn't played very well. Obviously, been a pest on the defensive end. Makes great hustle plays. So that's why I think his issues are fixable. Is that effort covers up a lot of stuff. And I think the shots are going to fall. But problem is, shots really haven't been falling recently. He's shooting less than, but he's shooting barely 20% from 3 point arc, down in rebounds and assists and points. Um, Not really looking at the basket. I think he needs to be a little bit more of a threat to score. Um, but really good player, kind of like Mark Sears. I think he'll get it together as the season goes on. Too talented not to. But Iowa State Cyclones never won a national championship before, I believe, and I hope that this is the year. Rooting for Iowa State as one of my teams to, potentially win the national championship. That home environment in Hilton is so amazing. Iowa State fans really love their basketball. One of the best home court environments in the United States, I would wager. Haven't been to a ton of stadiums, but I would think so. Just going off of rankings that I've seen and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's about time the world wakes up and realizes the ZVJ way, and starts picking Iowa State in their pre postseason polls.